Welcome to the December 4th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Concord Historic Districts Commission. The commission will review 3 new applications, 1 continued application, and 1 item under other business. Actually, I think there are going to be 2 items, but anyway. We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Our hosts will mute microphones if they're not speaking, and in order to preserve bandwidth, may need to turn off video, with the exception of the commissioners, the host, and the current applicant. The chair will call on commissioners for comments on an application and then open the meeting for public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I will ask for a motion from the commission to continue, to approve with conditions, or to reject. A second, and conduct a roll call vote. Once the commission has acted on an application, the applicant is free to leave the meeting. Now, a roll call of members. I'm here. Bill?
Here.
Tim?
Here.
Walter?
Here.
Louis?
I'm here.
Kate?
Here.
Luis? A different Louis. Luis. And Kristen, I see you are here.
Yeah. Oh, there's
Sorry, I'm on my phone right now. My computer is freaking out right now.
Well, mine did that earlier, but I luckily got in. Kate's I was able to get in. Ann was able to get me in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have voting members for this evening. They are Kate Chartner, Tim Whitney, Kristen Dahlman, Luis Barabizia, and myself. So the first new public hearing is Marcia Marlowe, who I see there. Marcia, welcome. 30 Bow Street, Northbridge Monument Square Historic District, to remove and replace an iron railing. Marcia, it's all yours. Tell us what you want to do.
Well, I've been in the house 40 years, and I decided to remain in place. And so I needed to do things for my safety. And one of the problems is that my house is not on ground level. It's above the garage. And so in order to enter the front door or the side door, I have to go up a path and around. It's about 30 feet on both sides, which was fine in the beginning. But then gradually I began to just use the garage to get, into the garage, go up the stairs and be in my house. And then I began to think that if I was at home and I could not exit in an emergency by the steps, I would have to only exit through the garage. And if it was a situation where I could not go down the stairs to exit the garage, or I'm not able to use the stairs, I would be in a very precarious situation of exiting in a safe manner. So this initially at the bottom of the stairs on ground level, there is an iron railing of about 9 feet. And it takes me up 9 steps. It would be on the left here, the birch tree is hiding it. And from the top of the railing, I counted 30 more steps to go up and around and to my front door. No support at all. And then when I reached that entrance to the front door, the first step is 10 inches high rather than the usual 8. It's very hard for me with nothing to hold on to is to step up. What you see in the bottom is the first 9 feet of the stairs going up. And at the top is the entrance with no railing, nothing in order for me to go in. So I called a person who works at what he called a fabricator. And he said that he would remove the 9-foot iron railing and replace it with one that went all the way around and up to the front door and have two, railings on the steps that I could hold on to step up. It's also the same for anybody who comes to my house and attempts to go up that way. It's not very safe.
So do we have a view of this railing from the street?
Yes. If you go back to the first steps. Yes, that's it. That's the beginning, and that's all. It's about approximately 9 feet.
I wanted the street view to see if we were standing on the street, what we would see.
This
I
is
think you
what
had it earlier.
see. That's what you see.
And can you point to where this stairs starts?
Well, unfortunately, it's behind the trees because it goes around that side of the house.
So it's behind that tree.
Yeah, it's near the garage. It starts around where the garage is. And it's,
But when the leaves down, we could see it, correct?
just those 9 steps. You don't see anything else. There's nothing else to see. So if I put the railing in, you wouldn't see anything other than what's there now.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the commissioners?
I think, is the railing go up as you face your house? Does it go up to the right?
And on the left, I have
on the
one
left.
on the right, but there is nothing at all that any of support. It's just, I have on the right, there's a railing of about 4 feet. I go up a few steps and then all the rest of the way to the house, no support at all. And it's on a slope, it's not level.
So this is the same style of
Yes,
rail,
yes,
just longer.
yes,
And continuous, right?
yes.
I was saying, I have no problem with this.
Other thoughts?
No questions.
No,
Seems pretty straightforward to me. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Public?
Oh, excuse me, I should ask the public if they have any comments. Do your neighbors have any comments about this? Let's see. Is there anybody out there that wants to comment on this? No? Okay, now, if there are no further comments from anybody, I'll ask for a motion.
I move that we approve the application of 30 Bow Street to remove and replace an iron railing as submitted.
Second.
Okay, so let's go through the voting members here. Kate,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Kristen. You're muted. But I gather you're an aye. And then Louise.
I am.
Louise.
Aye.
And I am an aye. So you have your railing.
Thank you so much. I feel
You're welcome.
safer already.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, so our second new hearing is from Susie Kornblum for the Concord Children's Center. On behalf of the town of Concord, who are the owners, and the Children's Center, the applicant, 1300 Main Street, Church Street Historic District, to replace the existing playground by removing existing features and adding rubber and asphalt surfaces, a deck, retaining wall, fence, and other elements. So Susie, I see you here. If you run us through your application, that would be terrific.
Great. Thank you so much, commissioners. My name is Susie Kornblum. I'm the executive director at Concord Children's Center. A little background, CCC has been a fixture in the Concord community since our founding in 1975. We're getting ready to celebrate 50 years. We provide full-day childcare for children ages 10 weeks to 5 years at 2 locations in Concord, 1300 Main Street, and our newly constructed building at 250 Old Bedford Road. Tonight, I am here regarding our application for our location at 1300 Main Street. CCC built this building in 2002 after many years in the Harvey Wheeler building next door. The 1300 Main Street building was constructed with money raised from the CCC community in a capital campaign at that time. However, the building is on town-owned land for which we pay rent. Our outdoor playground is shared with the Concord Carousel Preschool, a Concord Town Recreation Program during the week, and is available to all residents of Concord during non-program hours. The building was originally intended for preschool only. However, in 2013, we saw a growing need in our area for infant and toddler care. And so we renovated both the interior of the building and a portion of the playground to accommodate 12 students aged 10 weeks to 2 years, 9 months. Since then, the need for full-day childcare for these youngest children has really increased. And so we now have 27 infants and toddlers. So we started out with 12, we now have 27 infants and toddlers in the building and on the playground every day. The infant toddler playground is a portion of the outdoor space at the 1300 Main Street location. It occupies the corner of the property and is visible from both Main Street and Church Street. With the increased use from all the little feet and little hands and little knees, the ground has become extremely compacted, and we're no longer able to grow grass in the space as was originally intended. The space is now a mix of dirt and sand. The lack of a soft ground cover really presents a safety challenge for our students and for our young crawlers. We also have a current state of the surface that doesn't allow for digging and exploring in the way that we know young children benefit from. And also the appearance of the playground needs improvement, both to entice children into imaginative outdoor play with well-designed and attractive space, but also to improve the eyesore that it is currently for passersby. With the help of Lemon Brook Landscape Architects, we've created a safe, renovated, child-friendly, and attractive design for this portion of our playground. I want to note that the town manager, Carrie LaFleur, has signed the HDC application as the owner of the land, and the director of the Concord Rex Carousel Preschool Program, as our co-user of the space, has participated in this design process and approves our current proposed design for her students and program as well. So I want to turn my time over to Jennifer Brook of Lemon Brook Landscape Architects, and she's going to walk you through the vision for the renovation of this corner of our outdoor grounds. Jennifer?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Brook. I am the principal in charge at Lemon Brook Landscape Architecture. We are a small landscape architecture office. We're located at 10 Concord Crossing, right above where Chang-On used to be, and is no longer. We're eagerly anticipating a new Italian restaurant in that space. So if it would be okay with the commissioners, I would like to share my screen.
It's okay.
Okay, I've got it. Yep, I've got it. If you cannot see that title page, just let me know.
We
Okay.
can see it.
Okay, good. So what I thought I would do is, just for the sake of reminding everyone sort of where we are at, this is Church Street here on the west side of the site. This is Main Street here, running roughly east-west, and Church Street running roughly north-south. This is the Church Street Historic District. This is our West Concord Library right down here in the corner. Here is the Concord Children's Center building. And then, of course, we all know the Harvey Wheeler building here. This is our site right here on the corner. And Main Street really does enjoy, at least for this section of the historic district, a really nice setback here. So that's why the site doesn't start until roughly 30 feet back. Okay, so this is where we're located. What I'd like to do is take you on a very quick tour so I can highlight some of the things that Susie just mentioned, and give you a view of what it's like from the public way. And these are existing condition photographs. So if I stand on the corner of the library, right at Church and Main, here on the left side, you can see straight into the site here. And here on the right-hand side, if I stand on Main Street with the building to my right, on a sunnier day, you can see into the site from this side. So from the corner, it really is visible on that corner from both sides. And these are taken, you can see up here in the right-hand side where these images are taken from, here and here. If we move a little bit closer to the project and stand on the corner at Church and Main, you can see some of the details which are unique to this corner, which I think are pretty cool. You have this concrete curb which runs straight down Church. It actually turns the corner and runs along Main Street as well, kind of holding in about 6 inches of dirt here with turf on top. You can see that curb here in the photo on the right. This is looking from Church Street back down to the corner at the intersection. You can see one of the problems Susie didn't mention, but has become a little bit problematic, and that is when it rains, all of that dirt and sand that has now become the playground, it runs back out here onto the sidewalk. And you can see some of that happening here. And then it accumulates actually on the backside of the sidewalk. So all these improvements that we'd be making would help manage some of the storm water scenarios that you're seeing here. And here's where we're much closer. And then if you pull right up to the fence, if you did this and the folks who are out, the staff that's out here with the kids saw you doing this, you'd probably have someone approach you and ask you what you were doing. Because this is pretty close to the fence. And you can see in here, there's the entrance to the Concord Children's Center here on the left-hand side. That circle of wood stumps, that was the original sandbox. If any of you know or are privy to the ways of small children, all of that sandbox is really no longer in there, and it's pretty much everywhere else. And then on the right-hand side, you can see what used to be turf. The turf, good for turf, right? It lasted about 3 years, but with the increased number of children out there, as well as just the increased amount of time kids are spending outside on the playground, it doesn't look like that anymore. So it looks like this. You can also see, I'm going to point it out, if it's not obvious, this corner, because it's so visible and it's town property, this corner is almost always it has these vinyl signs attached to the fence. We get a real kick out of the Full Monty posted on a preschool fence, but the kids can't see that. It's on the outside, not the inside. But it is a constant feature of the fence, which has its issues, but that's not what this meeting is about. So, and then what I thought I would do is I would show you 2 images from inside the fence. You can see where they're taken up here on the right-hand side. On the left side of the screen, this is what ends up happening when you get compaction. Grass doesn't grow and water doesn't drain, right? The ground is pretty much like concrete. The kids, I'll have to say, love the puddles. They really dig the puddles. And so that's pretty cool. The parents, maybe not so much when they come to pick up the kids at the end of the day. So CCC is well known for letting children be children at an exceptionally free and developmentally appropriate level. They meet children where they are, and they have accommodated this desire for mud and dirt and puddles elsewhere. It's really not meant to be here on the site. And we have things that are called mud kitchens, which are pretty awesome. And that's probably a better place for kids to be playing in the mud than here. And then on the right side, I'm going to take you very quickly through this photograph. On the left side, that is actually black rubber tile there on the left, but it's so covered in sand that it doesn't look black anymore. And it drains better than what was there before. In the middle of the photograph, you have both concrete and asphalt. This is the sand over here on the right-hand side. And then those blue tarps are the buggies that are used by staff for the very small children to go on field trips. One quick reminder, this is a playground for infant toddlers, which means we have crawlers and even pre-crawlers, lots of pre-crawlers actually. So these surfaces really aren't super for the users in this space. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to show you a side-by-side comparison of our existing plan and the proposed plan. Does anyone have any questions for me at this moment before I jump into this? Okay, so the existing conditions plan is here on the left. The goal of this plan project from the beginning wasn't to reinvent the wheel. We really aren't trying to upset the apple cart here pretty much for anyone, including the children who have some behavioral maps that they have that are very important to them at this age. So for example, just, moving the sandbox to a completely different part of the site or getting rid of it altogether. It wasn't in the cards here. So really the goal was to clean up, sort of tidy up, offer more opportunities for the site to do the work rather than having teachers and staff with, brooms and shovels and things like that. So one of the first things that we did in the proposed plan, I'll show you, is on the north side. It's to take this internal fence, which at the very beginning was a fairly random location. It connected from the end of the building and it kind of came out where it made sense and connected to the fence. We'd like to add this much space and take it. We're not adding, we're actually taking that space from what is on the other side of the fence, which is our 2-year, 9-month-and-old up children's area. And we'd like to grab that and put that back into the infant toddler side. So we're moving that fence back by 5 feet. This rubber section over here, that rubber tile I just showed you, that's not super great, especially when it gets sand on it. It gets slippery, like little ball bearings on the rubber there. We're replacing that with wood over here. The wood is super for the kids. When you bang on it, you get some reverberation. It's a much more interesting sensory material for the kids to be playing on. It's dry when it rains, and the sand will fall through. So that's a much better scenario. On the left side over here, the current condition is that the whole site slopes back. So this is the high side right here at the fence. And then the site slopes from there back to a drain that's right there. So this whole thing is sloping. So not only does the water run off in that direction, but it takes all the sand with it. So what we'd like to do is put in a low stone wall. And when I say low, it's only about 12 inches high. We can't have high surfaces for children to climb on. It's not safe at this age level. And we don't need it to be high. All we want to do is hold the sand back. So that's a 12-inch high stone wall right through here. We've added a wooden bench top on the inside, just on the inside of this curve here, so that care providers, staff, And even the kids themselves can use that as a kind of like built-in balance beam. From the existing fence gate, we're not changing that to the front door. We're going to resurface that with asphalt from the beginning to the end. It's kind of a mishmash of different materials right now. That leaf pattern is painted onto the asphalt. That is something that we would do after the project is completely finished. And then if we make our way to the south here, these two trees, they're ornamental. This one's a really beautiful example of a Kusa dogwood. They are not going to survive if the compaction that is out there doesn't get remediated in some way. So what we're suggesting here is that this would all get aerated. We'll pull all of that dirt up. We'll put most of it back and then add a layer of mulch that we will hold back with this wooden edge here. And then the rest of this site, from the gate to the asphalt path, and then this whole section here, all that dirt would come up, and we'll be putting back a poured in place impact resistant rubber surface. That means that if little kids use this bench top, for example, as a balance beam, they won't necessarily bounce when they hit that rubber surface just to the right there. But it does mean that there is a much less high, likelihood of any kind of broken bones or injury of that sort. This round circle here in the center is a raised mound of the same rubber material. There's an existing mound, you saw it in the photograph, it's out here. Kids really like the mound. It's something that they can test themselves on when they walk up and over it. The slightly older children will ride the trikes up over it and down the other side. So much so that staff will, they'll stand over here, or they will, have redirect, let's just say, redirect the kids so that they don't go crashing into the building. But there used to be a slide, a little embankment slide on that hill for up until, I think, Susie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was about maybe 2 years ago. The slide was there and the kids loved it, but the slide came off. Basically, it just popped off the ground, off the foundations that it was on. It's only 2.5 feet high, this mound, so it's really not very big. It doesn't seem big to the adults, but it's actually quite large if you are 2 or younger.
Yeah.
The last thing on this plan, I think that I need to point out, there's 2 more things, sorry. One is this new tree out here. The shade trees that are along Main Street are not in great shape. It's too bad. You can tell that they used to be something quite magnificent, truly, at one time. And over the years, they've broken out and they haven't been replaced. There used to be a tree here, and we were hoping that we could put another one back, maybe actually invest in a good sized tree to begin with, just because it really would help shade the playground out here. Which is a necessary thing. Having some shade would be really great. So that's the first thing. And then the second and last thing on this plan is this low wall right here. This is where those blue tarp covered buggies are in the photos I showed you. They just look like hell. And not only from the street, but it's hard to manage them for staff too. And what we're basically doing is creating like a parking spot right next to the building under the eave. And the idea is that this is a wall that would be clad with shingles that match the exterior of the building. So it would feel almost invisible. Okay, 2 more slides and I'm finished. This is a view from Main Street. Looking in at the playground. On the left is your existing conditions. On the right-hand side is the proposed condition. There's that mound that I was describing of rubber. This sign, I've left it in this drawing because there probably will be a sign. You go out there on any given day and there will be a vinyl sign attached to the side of the fence. Usually there's 2, one on each side, Church Street and Main Street. And this is that tree that I was just describing. Because you're looking at the project from this side, we're not doing a whole lot to cover the view of the buggies on this side. That's where they would go into that parking spot. If you look at this image, this is the view from Church Street, existing on the left, proposed on the right. There's that mound again. And then back there, you can see that low wall that would basically have the same exact cladding material that's on the building right now. And that does a lot at this level, coming up Church Street around the corner to kind of hide the buggies back there. In the foreground, you're seeing that mulch area, that wood restraining edge here, and then that low stone wall that's holding in the sand on this side here. So you're not seeing the nifty pool noodles wound around the fence here, but those sort of things come and go, as do the materials and loose parts that the staff use with the kids inside the playground. Those things also come and go. So we're not showing any of that in here because they're so temporary. What you're really seeing is all the permanent features. And that's pretty much my presentation for the commissioners tonight. And I'm sure Susie would be happy to take any questions.
The first question, several years ago, can you hear me?
Yep.
I can.
Okay, sorry. Several years ago, you came to us for a new storage area. And we got along in our discussions, and we're narrowing down the placement of that, and then you withdrew the application. Is that coming back to this situation?
No,
You no longer need the storage shed. Okay.
no.
Because I think that storage unit was partly for stroller corralling, I think, so
Right,
that
Correct.
buggy area cover that.
Right. Yes, the low wall, I think, that matches the wall of the building takes the place of that, and we don't need storage for the toys and such there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions?
I have a
Could you go
question.
back to the site plan, show that again,
Sure.
or maybe Anne could show it, either one.
Can you see the site plan?
Yeah, I got that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just rattle through, I think it's a really well thought out plan. That's my
Yep.
that reaction. And there's a lot of natural material here, stone, wood, sand, mulch. And I totally get the need for safety and rubbers. So I don't have any comments on the plan, the layout. That is such an improvement over what's there now, I think. And the fact that you're trying to maximize natural materials, I think, is great. Just a couple of questions and comments is you're showing kind of earth tones for the rubber, and I think that would be a big concern for the commission is what actually are these suggestions of what the color of the synthetic might be, or is it actually pretty darn close? That's a question, and just hold on an answer. And then my other just design comment is not sure about the leaves extending all the way to the sidewalk beyond the fence. That's kind of getting into public domain.
Mhm.
That's my opinion, but that's my one question and one comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
I think he asked a question about the colors. Maybe they could.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks, Bill. If you could just comment on the colors of the rubber.
I can jump in on this, Susie. So
Yep.
the we talked about this. The staff at CCC was very clear at the get-go that rubber surfacing is, to be honest, is a compromise. There aren't, if anyone has any materials engineers in their family, you can have them start working on this problem, because there aren't a whole lot of materials out there that are appropriate for this use. Rubber is really, this poured in place rubber is really one of the best. And the reason I'm saying it was a compromise is because so many of the staff are so committed to natural materials that that this is just, everyone is like, okay, fine, we'll do it, but it has to not feel like a carnival out there, and it has to feel like something that is familiar. So these are colors that are being suggested to be replicated on the site in rubber. So I won't get into the weeds on the mixes and how the rubber works, but the color selection is incredibly varied and wide. What we're proposing is this a lighter tan color, which is earthen, to say the best, with this darker green and a lighter green, and then a mustardy yellow at the very tippy top.
What's your, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, but what you're showing is what you're
Correct.
posing.
Yeah.
It's not gonna
Nope.
come back as some different color.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
It's Bill. I have a couple questions. First one, following up on Tim's comment, I don't know whether yellow is the best choice, but that strikes me as nitpicking. The rest of the color scheme looks great. I had two somewhat peripheral comments. The first is you're proposing to replace the fence, I guess it's on the north, at least it's the top of the page, with chain link fence, which is the existing condition. I'm curious how a chain link fence ever got approved in a historic district in the first place. But since you're not planning to replace the bulk of that fence, my guess is it's not fair to ask or to challenge the choice of chain link as opposed to a historic material. The second is, in a similar vein, asphalt paving is generally not approvable on sidewalks, and wondered whether there was any investigation of using a less modern material for that entrance walkway.
We talked about using wood for the walkway, and so we could maybe consider that. Jennifer, did we talk about anything else for that material?
Wood would be super cool, as would like a picket fence. It's iron all the way around. That would be really cool. But yeah, our budget at this point doesn't even let us touch this at all.
I wasn't suggesting that.
I know, but just so that you know, I mean, we hate the chain link. I mean, to be honest, we hate it. It's stinky. It's so stinky. I don't know how it got approved. It's crazy. The sidewalk is asphalt. It goes from a concrete sidewalk to here. You can actually see the line in the photo, and then it goes to an asphalt sidewalk. So there's a lot that could be better here. So we don't want to exacerbate any of that. So the options that we have here, we talked about this, was either asphalt, wood, concrete would be an option here. It would not be, I think, all that much different or better than asphalt.
Yeah,
it could be a rubber surface, but because this is the plowable, shovelable walkway, that's also probably going to be subject to de-icers. That's why we want the asphalt. So concrete will spall. The rubber is not a great material if we want longevity to be plowing or shoveling on a regular basis to get to the front door. So that's the method to the madness. Wood could be a consideration. It's just it'll be a durability issue, as well as just
it doesn't strike me that it's that much more historically accurate.
Right.
Well,
there's
Trex as an option as well.
Yeah. Trex is a good option. Trex can get slippery. And that's my main concern about Trex. We'd have to run the boards perpendicular, like, in this direction.
And that's a mess when you're snow
It
shoveling.
yeah, it can be.
You're
Yeah.
probably in a corner here on that choice.
A little bit, yeah, which is why you're seeing the leaves, right? It turns it into something completely different. And the way we paint this, it might not feel like asphalt. Like we could paint
Yeah,
it like,
thank you.
Something else. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Bill, I just want to also comment on the yellow slide. The yellow slide is actually what was there before in the hill, and so we actually have it already and could just reinstall it as opposed to buying a new one. And you'd be surprised how expensive those little slides
I'm sure.
can be. So
Thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
I just had a comment. I've designed a number of playgrounds, and in all the research I have done, that that poured rubber is recycled truck tires, and I've never found any safety profile on it.
Right.
That's-
So, Kristen, so thank you for that. One of the things I didn't want to get into the weeds, but I'll touch on it. All these poured in place rubber mixes have a varying degree. It's up to the client to decide of recycled black rubber crumb. And the more black rubber crumb you use in your mix, the cheaper the material is. It also happens to make the material exceptionally warm under direct sun. So in this case, we're proposing that none of this rubber has any of the black rubber crumb material in it. So what you're seeing is actually just the pure colored crumb. And it's the black rubber is part of that equation, but more important is managing the surface temperature of the ground, because the kids who are out here have a lot of skin exposed, knees, hands, feet, that sort of thing. So, so yeah, that's an important point that you raise, and it's something that we've been thinking about.
And it's one of the reasons, Kristen, that we didn't want to choose artificial turf, which has now, been banned in the city of Boston and such. So that's why this poured in place rubber is, we think, a better choice. And I would note also that the black rubber that's currently there, you can see on the left-hand picture, gets really, really hot in the sun. And so the kids can't walk on it or crawl on it with exposed skin. So that is a problem.
Also, have you considered pavers for the walkway? Like-
Right in here?
Pavers? Yeah.
No, not really. It's a good suggestion. I think if we had pavers elsewhere, I don't know, what does the commission think? I mean, the building next door, Spanish Revival, that's more of a vertical surface. The horizontal surfaces, there really isn't any brick. There really isn't any unit paving.
You're talking about painted asphalt. I don't think you need to be concerned about precedent in the vicinity.
Well, exactly. So I think pavers in this case would be a price increase. And again, the issue here really is about durability and ease of management and from an operational perspective. That's really the driving force here.
And pavers would be permeable.
Pavers wouldn't necessarily be permeable.
But could be.
Permeable pavers, it's a good idea.
Well, if you're concerned about snow and ice and slippery,
yes,
I would think asphalt would be one of the worst choices.
Yes. The problem is that this is that drainage scenario I was showing you out here.
Mhm.
That's actually coming not directly from the front door. It's actually coming from the side. And the rubber surfaces are permeable. The asphalt surfaces is not, but with all of this permeable surface here, it should be a much more manageable scenario, not to mention the fact that this is all going to be contained, all the sand.
I'm sorry, how is the rubber permeable?
The rubber surface sits on a graded gravel base. So it's, so water, so the best example I can show you. So places, for example, I don't know if you've been to, I'm trying to think of a good place where you can see it. If you've been to Cambridge, a lot of the tree grates now have been filled with rubber, poured in place rubber. It helps keep tree roots in place, and it allows for accessibility across those bumpy bits in the sidewalk. Rubber itself is permeable. It's a granular material that's glued together with pores, so water bleeds through it. But any surface, again, this is a little bit of a lesson, any surface that has a compacted, like to 98% base, is not going to be permeable no matter what kind of surface is on top. So it really just depends on what the base is. So this rubber would sit on a graded gravel base. There's no vehicle traffic on it. It's just foot traffic. So we can have the opportunity to make that a permeable surface, those rubber surfaces.
And what do you think of as the lifespan for
Good
that rubber
question.
surface?
That's a really good question. Because it's only kids, typically we expect about 15 years. 15 years.
For all
And
of that.
that's for all of that. And that's really 15 years is, you know, no vandalism, just kids, no carts with, you know, jagged edges, that kind of thing.
Right.
Rubber surfaces like this can be patched, but the areas in which they are is really, you know, I would expect 15, but I think we would get more than 15 out of this rubber
So, well,
surface.
my first reaction to all this, if I can keep the floor for a moment, is you're talking about compaction and in a 3-year span to turn it from beautiful to current state. Is that correct, or am I missing something?
No, we opened it in 2013, so it's been in use for about 11 years. And
Yep.
the 27, we increased to 27 students from that 12 students just over the course of that time. But we've been at 27 students now for a couple of years.
Okay, so the greater abuse to that area was in the last couple of years. So. Yeah, my first thought on all that is you all have been talking about the compaction there and the preference for grass, and probably the commission's preference ultimately to not have rubber as a material in the historic district, which to me, coupled with the asphalt and chain link fence, you know, isn't really the direction one would be going. Has there been serious consideration of remediating the grass there?
We've tried. We've had landscapers come and plant grass seed. They come every year to
It's
do
not just
both.
planting grass seed if it's compacted. You know, that's
Yeah,
the
the
whole
issue,
idea.
Walter, is that when you aerate and then you seed, you then have to stay off of it for a period of time. And that just we're open, you know, all year. It's really,
Right.
it's quite difficult to keep us and our children off of our playground.
I have a quick comment, if I make, and if such a thing is possible, in making a quick comment. I look at the plan, and I was very disappointed because I thought that there was a lot of artificial surface and so forth, and I didn't think that the site deserved that much. But then I look at the existing condition plan, and I realize that the proposed design plan is a vast improvement over what's there. So I think that everything would be much better if we had an unlimited budget and all kinds of unlimited options to implement here. But I think that what we're looking at, it's a very wise compromise.
Yeah.
That reflects, you know, the possibilities that are real, not what it's plausible. So I could go on for hours and try to say whether these path should be narrower or wider, or whether the material should be of a different color. But I think that taking into account that the competences involved, both from the perspective of the consumer of the design, which is Zuzi as a representative of Concord Center, and as Jennifer as a landscape architect, I think that they have come to a very wise, rational, feasible solution. So I would not question any of their design decisions, and I would just vote in favor of the proposal as it has been presented. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Luis. Other comments?
Well, I would say in answer to that, I would still think that there are refinements to make. I'm not suggesting that there's only one path forward here, and I think the plan is, if we as a commission are willing to embrace that amount of rubber in the historic district, then yeah, so be it, and it's certainly viable that way. I mean, I do think that the end of the walkway extending out that far, asphalt and leaves, that should be pulled back. I would like to see more detail about how the enclosure around the buggies is actually going to be implemented, because that's something that we had spent a fair amount of time investigating before. You know, I was at site several times looking at all that. And the color of the rubber, I think, is going to be critical. Certainly would want that to be settled on and presented finally before just saying, oh, go ahead and do whatever rubber you think you want to do there. And there's so much of it, and it is so visible, and it is so much a visible part of the district that I think it behooves us to ride that a little bit closer. And then on a very positive thing, have you considered that since there are trees being put in for the 250th, that perhaps you might make a case for someone to get a tree put in there or two? Dennis, you may have more to say about that than I would, but there you go. So I'm not I'll sum up so that I'm not the nasty one here. I am not opposed to the proposal as it is. I just think there are a couple of things that should be clarified and examined a little bit more closely.
Yeah, I would also add, is there any possibility of screening that you've talked about?
Greening of the fence, you mean?
Screening, yeah, some grasses or something that would make it less visible.
So I think that, well, there are the vinyl signs that the town, allows to be put there. So those happen. But it's actually really important as part of the community feel for the children to be able to see out of the fence. So despite our dislike for the chain link, it does serve a purpose in allowing the children to see the fire trucks and the cement trucks and the garbage trucks and the people walking by and the dogs and all of that, and to interact with their neighbors in that way. So yes, screening is a possibility, but there's real value for the children in interacting with the community around them.
Wasn't this site originally the West Concord School in 1870
Yes.
something, right? So I think the presence of children and outdoor educational activities would be historically accurate.
Yeah, I don't think that's the point. I think it's the materials that are not historically. We're not saying get rid of the kids. We're saying, is there an inexpensive way to partially screen some of these modern materials?
You could ask
like on this view on the right, proposed 3 or 4 shrubs in the middle of that fence line to hide the yellow slide, perhaps.
Right, but the vinyl sign doesn't bother you?
Well, I wouldn't open the sign issue because as a historic district, the HDC has jurisdiction on signs too. I would advise we not get into that.
We don't control the signs, just
Yeah, that's right.
it's the town. The signs come up. We don't even know when they're going to be there, how long they're going to be there.
Yeah.
There was one for the recent show that was about pedophilia on our fence. So we don't have any control over what goes on the fence.
Next time that happens, speak up and we'll.
Thank you. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
But you could put shrubs there, as Bill suggested. Add a few would soften it. So you would
not even the whole length. You put 3
Right,
appropriately
right.
chosen shrubs in the middle there, and it breaks it up a little bit. But
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
Sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
So shrubs on the inside will not survive.
no, not on the inside.
On the
Outside.
outside.
The
Okay,
outside.
great. On the outside. And then the issue, so just as an aside, I mean, I'm not sure if we're standing, like people who walk by here move, right? They walk from one end of the sidewalk to the other. They don't stand in one spot. So 3 shrubs, to be perfectly honest, isn't going to do anything if you're to the left or to the right of this view.
I understand. I
That's it.
understand.
And then just as an aside, when we add plant material, especially on the outside of the fence, it will probably die unless it's irrigated. So this is unfortunately the kind of climate that we literally live in right now. So trust me, we have talked about it. Again, I want to reiterate how invested in as natural an experience for these kids the staff is at Concord Children's Center, that we went through the whole adding planting beds, either inside or outside. And every time you add a bed, you really need to have an adoptive parent for that bed. So to make sure that it gets watered in times of drought, which happens to be in the summer when a lot of folks are on
appreciate
vacation.
all that.
Yeah.
I appreciate all that.
Yeah.
The only reason we're raising it is one of the if you read the materials in the handbook, is the Historic Commission can ask for screening to hide or ahistoric structures, like a yellow slide, for example. I don't think I hear any sentiment from my colleagues that we ought to ask for that in this case.
I mean, I will say to the other commissioners, we have, I mean, this, the Children's Center is a business, and we do come across this, that the needs for business properties are different from residential ones because of whatever their mission might be. So, you know, a big banner that goes up to, you know, publicize an exhibition or, you know, something else. So I'm, you know, yes, it's a chain link fence, and yes, it's a lot of rubber, but it's also kind of, you know, the nature of the business that's there. And
I agree.
Is vexed by it. I think it's a good plan. I know Lemon Brook, you know, uses as much natural material as it can, and when they can, you know, make it all that, they do. And so, you know, but here it's just, you know, kind of a lot of practical and budgetary concerns. But I think it's a good design.
I would suggest the 2 things that I think Bill brought up. I can't remember. If we are to approve this, which is pulling the leaves back into the property on the painted walkway, and also having actual samples submitted of the various colors of the rubber, so we really know what we're looking at some point as a follow-up.
That was Walter's suggestion, which I would.
Sorry, Walter. I think it was Walter. Thank you. You know, we need to see really what these colors are before they go down, and that may be it may not be a continuance, but it just may be a requirement at some point that those are submitted to staff that we could take a look at. I'm not sure exactly how we do it, but that would be such an important part of it.
Well,
So that's what my suggestion is. We have those 2 conditions, is if the commission is comfortable with the plan, because I agree with Louise's and Kate's comments. It's we're not looking at a house here. It's a different beast, and I think it's a pretty I get all the issues they're raising, having dealt with all this stuff myself in over 30 years of design work. It's tricky stuff, and I think they've done a very good job. So that would be my suggestion, is just those two requirements, if people are comfortable with that.
Yes, I agree with Tim.
I liked how that conversation ended, Kate.
You liked how that ended?
That comment,
That's don't expect it to happen all the time, Tim.
that's why I'm enjoying it. So can I try to make a motion here? Is that okay?
Public comment?
Other comments?
Oh, sorry, public comment.
Stefan Bader. Open to my video, my audio.
We see
Your
you.
video is on,
We
Stefan.
see you and we hear you.
Oh, okay. Stefan Bader, 7 River Street. I happen to live in the historic district also. Full disclosure, I also happen to be the treasurer of the Concord Children's Center. I just wanted to point out that the issue of using natural materials versus rubber and so on, I agree with the observation Kate made that this is a business, and it's actually more than a business. It's a not-for-profit childcare entity, and I think that to my mind, the commissioners would not be setting a precedent to approve something for a nonprofit childcare. If some homeowner wants that, you could require that they take care of other people's children's on their property all year long as a condition. Thank you.
Walter on?
I'm
Oh,
here.
sorry, not Walter.
Dennis.
Dennis?
Sure.
Dennis?
What happened to Dennis?
He has
Dennis
disappeared.
He has disappeared.
Oh, he did say at the beginning he was having trouble.
There I go. Sorry. Sorry.
Ah.
Back again. Some reason it got off track. Okay.
Tim's
So I've
itching
been
to make a
talking to the
motion.
wall this whole time. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the 1300 Main Street as submitted with the two following conditions, I guess. One is to hold the leaf pattern on the sidewalk back behind the gate location. I believe that's where it is. And also to have samples of the actual various colors submitted for committee review, which we could do on site.
Would
May I
you
ask
want to
a
modify?
question?
Would you want to modify your second suggestion that would have staff approval for the colors rather than have to come back to the committee? Or
Staff
commission?
approval.
Okay.
Sure.
Great. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Great. Let's do some voting. Kate,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Luis,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Great. So you have your new playground.
Thank you so much. May I ask a question?
Too late. No, I'm only kidding. You can ask a question. What's your question?
Just in terms of how I haven't been through this before, how would the process work for submitting samples? Would we need to do that before we broke ground? Would we need to? How would that work?
We just need to see them before you lay it down. So, so you know, the sooner the better. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I would like, this is Jennifer. I would like to apologize. I have those samples already ordered. So Susie, they should arrive, they were supposed to arrive this week. They haven't. Hopefully they will arrive next week. And so sooner is definitely possible. As soon as you get a gander at them and you are comfortable, then we just need to find a way to submit them to the commission.
And
But
we
it will be
submit them to
sooner.
the staff, not the commissioners.
Right.
Any other questions? No? Good. Leave while you're ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, our last new applications from Samantha Power, 41 Wood Street, Main Street Historic District, to remove and replace 6 windows and add 2 windows. So, Ms. Power, are you with us?
Miss Power is not with us. The architect is.
I'm shocked.
No, this is Bob Drew from Battle Architects. Nice to see you guys again. This is a project, a small project, which we've worked. This is the 4th time we've worked on the property. 3rd time in front of you in terms of work for the exterior. We've been in front of you for some garage work and turning this little pony barn into a riding studio several years ago. This project is a renovation to the 2nd floor of this wing. This is the main building. This is where probably where the servants' quarters were. This is the 2nd floor. The project is taking all these cut up bedrooms and reconfiguring it into 2 ensuite bedrooms for the 2 kids. The client's goal is to make sure the kids are growing, they're meeting teenager status, and they want 2 ensuite bedrooms for both of them, and try to keep them as home as long as possible. That's their goal. With that, there's some windows that need to be replaced, and we also like to adjust a couple of the windows for one of the bedrooms. So what's changing is, I think the best one is the west elevation here. So these windows here that all face Wood Street are staying as is. These windows here and this window there are being replaced. We're removing 2 windows and we're adjusting these windows in this bedroom back here. To see on the elevation, that's kind of what exists today. I'll show you a photo in a minute. What it's changed to is this. So we're removing these 2 windows. These 4 windows get replaced. We're adding windows in here because we're taking kind of taking 2 bedroom spaces and make it one big one. And also, the photo is probably the best. It's back in here, and this bedroom up front here, which would be the daughter's, gets really a lot of nice natural light, beautiful natural light in the morning. This feels really dark because of the tree. So we're kind of a little bit of, might trim the tree a little bit, but trying to get this bedroom a little more lighter and a little more open to the back, nice backyard they have too. The windows we're using are Marvin, which is pretty much our go-to, which you've seen on the previous projects, and we use a lot on our current work up north or in Concord and in around Concord. White to match, the divider lights are to match. Everything's kind of the sizes are all to match. And the windows are pretty much all the same size on the 2nd floor. And so that's pretty much the scope. Again, it's just making these cut up rooms, 2 ensuite bedrooms for the 2 kids. Nice quiet project, and a repeat client, a great client.
What's the age of that servant wing?
Oh God, the front
I mean, it looks 19th century someplace,
Yeah,
You just had a flash of 1763, wasn't it?
I think that was
the initial. The initial is. I don't know about the back.
Yeah, I know this has been added on because I've been in the attic looking at the structure, and when it gets to here, the structure is different than what's over here. It's kind of weird. Like I think it's like the framing's different. So it looks like it's been added on. I'm not too sure what year it is. I haven't gone that deep into the history of the building, which I should, but it's.
But the part that you're talking about altering is the older part of that.
Yeah, that's correct, over here. That's probably the wrong photo.
That
But-
leads to
but-
the next question is, and the age of the windows. Have you determined the age of the windows?
So it's a single pane glass. So it's not, so that's, I mean, that tells you a little bit of an age. I don't think they're original from what I can see. I can zoom in. I might have a better photo to zoom into the window if you'd like to see it.
No, I don't think we're gonna tell
Before
them,
you
but-
do that, can I just, I'm a little confused. We're moving faster than I can think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The elevation on Wood Street is not changing.
That's correct.
The elevation on the end gable, which faces, what street is that? Hosmer Street or something?
Neshoba
Road.
Neshoba Road. That's
Those
not
two-
changing?
That those windows are being, not changing, but the windows are being replaced in kind.
Okay.
I
But-
apologize for yapping too fast.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry. I just had a
And-
coffee.
And of course, this view is from Neshoba Road, a public
Yeah.
way.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is where you've seen this garage before. We changed the windows into the pony barns to the left. But the main change is this
Got it.
up in here.
Thank you.
Sorry,
And only
I'm
on the
sorry.
second story, only the
Yeah.
second story.
Yeah, again, I apologize. I did.
No, it's okay.
Yep, too fast.
Why are you replacing windows on the end?
Why are we replacing the windows and end? Because a lot of sunlight. It's been beat on pretty good. It's not. It shows showing its age.
But they could be restored.
That's a question for the contractor, but I'm sure they could be. Could be.
And I think that I would say that we would prefer that those be restored rather than replaced.
Okay. These two guys right here.
Yep.
Are those the
Help
only
if
two
you
windows?
knew how old they are.
What's that?
It would certainly help if you knew how old any of these windows were.
Yeah. I can do a little more investigation to like maybe talk to the town about what's in the tube, what's on file with the town and whatnot. They may have that information. Sometimes like previous projects, like the drought you saw with us with Monument Street, they didn't have anything about the windows. 50-50 chance seeing the age of it. But I understand Dennis's comment about this because this is right off Neshoba, and you can see it as you set to come down Wood Street.
Yeah.
I understand restoring instead of replacing. That is noted.
Are those storm windows on single pane windows?
That's correct.
Looks like it.
And the new windows you're proposing, are they clad?
That's correct. On the garage and the pony barn, was again, we're going back what we had in front of you before was clad. If you say, I'd rather see the wood, Marvin makes wood, so that's an easy adjustment. Easy adjustment. The Ultimate Series, you can do either clad or wood.
So if you're putting a Marvin insulating glass window, whether it's wood or clad, there's no storm window, obviously, so.
Yep, that's correct.
And Robert, did somebody ask this already? Is the photo we're looking at, there's the side-by-side pair of windows, and that's the configuration you're looking at for the new windows. Does it exist anywhere else in the existing house?
Good question. We do have, as you kind of come down the main part of I'm sorry, these photos are old because it's when I originally started 8 years ago. So there's some pairs of windows here. And again, I apologize for the fuzzy. Yeah, it goes a little there. There are, on the master suite of the main building, there are windows. On that wing,
Where is this view from? The last one.
oh, sorry.
It's the backyard.
It's the backyard. This is where the pool is.
That's a very new addition, but
Yeah,
that
that's-
single story addition is very like 30 years old.
To answer, sorry, go back to on the front. Oops. I don't believe on the front of the house there's pairs of windows. It's all single here on this main volume. There is some here. That's a little bit of a vestibule piece. So not exactly that size, but not really on the wing here.
So there'll be that size on the
That's
other side,
That's
but
correct.
in pairs.
That's correct. It's really, really dark in that space, and I mean, you go into the drawings. Sorry, guys. it's very dark back here with this tree, and this is very nice and light. And so they're trying to. It's a balance of making sure the kids are even as possible.
Could I see the proposed elevation again with the array of windows?
Also tried to make it a little more organized of the elevation. You know, both sides kind of a little bit of not lining up, and you know, I'm trying to make some sort of alignment back there.
I don't know. What do the window people think? Dennis?
Where you're going, Kate, I'm interested, is it possible to replicate that end double window precisely in these new double windows? Because if you look at the spacing
Yeah.
between the sashes, I mean, again, not knowing how old that window, but if we say it's potentially an original configuration, there's been some historic evidence for having paired windows, but these paired windows don't look like that paired window.
No.
I'm happy to add, you know, a couple studs between the windows, and that Matt has to talk to these guys.
I'm the wrong person to know that. But
Oh, okay. No,
maybe
I appreciate the
where Kate
question.
was going was that end window. You know, we'll assume it was at some point in some historic era added, and if you could replicate that design on these new windows, it might.
Which end window are you talking about? The gable
That
end?
one right there.
Right there.
So these
You
two.
had an end view before.
Yeah,
You had
should-
the Stubber Road. end
show
view.
that there,
Right
you go.
there, there.
I personally feel this has been added on to. I'm not sure which year because by the framing I see on the attic. Just to let you know. So I don't
The
know
end
how far
window
back.
being the first floor
Yeah.
gang?
Yeah.
So Robert, you don't have a structural post between those ganged windows?
No,
No.
but but that's easy to do. I can do that. That's not a problem at all.
I think that would just
Look more.
Yeah,
We'll
that's-
talk more.
that-
blend
Would
better.
soften it
Yeah.
Considerably.
If those are 1x6 casings or 1x5, you add 2 or 3 studs so that you've got sort of uniform casing.
Yeah.
That one's
I can-
sort of particularly beefy between those two windows. It doesn't have to be that funky, but
The ones on the other side. I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around. That's pretty thick too. The ones on the first floor are a little more closer. I can mimic this. That's not a problem on those
that'll
double
be
windows.
much better. Yeah.
Happy to do that. That's
Yeah.
It is tough to kind of see from the stuff here. I mean, obviously we'll probably trim this up a little bit to get some light there too. But regardless, we can add that stud pocket. That's not a problem at all. That's not going to affect anything with the plan. It's what I liked about it, but adding the windows, it organized the elevation a little bit better. But you know, the bed's in the middle. There's a flat wall here for a bureau, and it's windows on each side to get more light to the space.
Robert, are there any clad windows on this wing or main house or this wing?
Not on this wing. It is on the garage, and it's on the pony barn.
But not on the house.
The other projects we've done, the master suite, that was all interior. We never changed the windows. We left everything as is.
Before we go too far with this, can I see side by side, if you can do it, the current view of the backside and the proposed view of the backside? Because you're taking out some windows, and I just want to compare where those are coming out. And so there's a real reason. I mean, you're coming out with about the same number of windows, correct?
That's correct. It's reorganizing.
Does the commission see a real reason for removing the old windows and putting the pairing up just to get more light side by side in there? Does that make sense?
Well, the dividing wall that's being put in between the two bathrooms is determining the placement of that window.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's.
But
Yeah,
all the
we-
windows, maybe, do we have to?
Right there.
Yeah, so we're removing 2 windows. And one of those windows is going to lie right in the dead center. And unfortunately, we have this big chimney mast we're trying to work around too, which currently works. We're not going to take out. We're trying to make the bathrooms as even as possible. So this wall kind of lands right on one of the existing windows.
So you're measuring square footage, so you have balance between the kids?
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's.
That's very.
I don't want to get a
that's
part of
very-
the. I don't want to get into the argument with the kids. That's.
So we feel in order to get that balance, we should sacrifice windows?
That's what this is, in order to put that wall dividing, and this was my reaction as I was looking at the floor plan first, in order to divide the bathroom in that manner, it sacrifices the window.
And do we feel, not knowing the age of the windows, and they might be original to that wing, that we're willing to let all those windows go and have new ones come in order to equal out bedrooms?
Do we feel that? No, we don't.
We do not.
And I also add that in the macros report, it says that this is a very long 2-story south wing used by at least 2 generations of Woods as a shoe shop, maybe as old as the house. It was enlarged and raised to 2 stories in about 1821. So that's one part. And the second thing, I'm not voting tonight, but do we want to arrange the exterior of a house, a historic house, based on interior bathrooms?
Yeah, no.
I mean, I think we need to consider that before we consider what the windows would look like. Do it one more time. I'd like to see the comparison one more time.
So that's existing?
Right.
That's proposed.
Yeah.
Existing. Proposed. So that's
So
the window. That's the window we were talking about in the bathroom. That's the window. Other window we're removing, and we're kind of it's the same number of windows. We're just rearranging this back part of that wing.
I
get
guess
more
the
light.
question is, would you consider only the one change required to manage that bathroom wall? I think what I'm reading into my colleagues' comments here, the pushing towards more symmetry is maybe not a good objective here, and that retaining the haphazard look, if you will, or organic look of the past is important to us.
Well, to my eye, it's more haphazard with the double windows offset there. That it's hardly maintaining symmetry there. The whole
there was no symmetry there was less symmetry before in the existing conditions. I would argue there's less symmetry there.
Yep.
That's existing.
Yeah, this is I
mean,
find
but the placement of the windows on the left side of this picture, the second window in on the second floor and the fourth window in on the second floor are original placements, right?
Approximately, yeah. Correct.
Yeah, and they're above, without going back and forth, they're above the first floor windows.
That's correct.
Right.
And
So adding each of those second window sections to double the top windows is offsetting the symmetry, at least of that end of the building.
Do we have you looked for historic photographs of this? Because one might conjecture that the windows have moved around several times in 200 years.
Right.
I wouldn't doubt it.
It'd be great
I
if
mean,
there was some photographic documentation of what it looked like.
The client doesn't. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The client does not have any of that in their hands. Like that Monument Street house you guys saw a couple of years ago with us. The client had this book of the history of the house, which was awesome. I don't think the previous owner, when they bought this property 8 years ago, that previous owner didn't have that much history. I can look into it. I'm not sure how much.
Such a famous house that I'd be surprised if the library doesn't have.
Yeah.
Some.
Anka Voss can provide you with that information. And on the age of the windows, and maybe we ought to insist on more of this in these early houses, there are window restorers around who are experts on ages of windows. And we ought to insist more that these windows have more of an inspection before we remove original windows in places. First of all, to see if they can determine age. Secondly, to see if they can determine whether they can be restored.
Amen, Dennis.
And there are plenty of people around that do that sort of work.
Right.
Yep,
And is there no one at the firm who specializes in understanding the historicity of these buildings?
I think between the three of us in the office, we know this a little bit of the history, but I can't look at the window and go, "That's 1973." You know, it's. I know back to as long as I've been
can you
working.
look at a window and go 1773 or 1873 or 1973?
No, unfortunately, I cannot.
Well, I would suggest to you, if I may gently, that working in Historic Concord and presenting to the Historic Commission as often as you do, that perhaps it would behoove you all to learn.
No, I got it. I got that. The more work I do, the more I understand the history of windows. I mean, obviously, this is one of the few projects I've been in front of you guys with. learning on the fly as I go, but I understand that. More homework to be done.
It's wicked important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lewis shared with me
And-
today the name of a window restorer that he thinks is excellent and probably could be very helpful in this situation. If you'd
Okay.
like him to send that along to you.
I think we have two.
For now, for this project and future projects and for education, yeah, absolutely.
But there are also two issues. There's the issue of the condition of the window and the restoration versus replacement. But there's also the issue of changing the position of a window and erasing the historicity of the structure by changing it.
Yeah, that's the core of my concern.
And, the point, ganging of windows is not what was happening in the 1700s, early 1800s. These windows look good when they're standing alone.
I mean, I could come back to not a problem of to me, it's the natural light. That's the first thing. That's how I was trained in college, was like, the natural light, Lewis Kahn, natural light. I'm happy to look at these as a separate entities, spread them apart more, either by, matching what's going down here to kind of have them all talk on that second floor level, or spread them apart more. So they feel like singular windows, which is kind of like spread out all over the elevation on the second floor.
We can't solve that kind of minutia at this meeting. This is not
Oh
our
yeah,
job.
no, I understand. I'm just trying to get your feedback. That's
I would. I think
It's up to me to design-
I think you should take a look at trying to pull these windows apart so they're single windows, and keep them in their same position if you can, coupled with keeping the windows, so we're not just categorically replacing with Marvin clad windows in this historic, clearly quite old wing.
honestly.
I
Go ahead, Lee.
I want to agree with what Tim said, and the way that I would look at it is to which extent this house satisfies historical reference. And as it is right now, it does very nicely satisfies a historical reference. But I think that historical reference would be diminished if we put something that it's not historically referenced. Say so. In other words, there are no previous events like this, which is to put two windows together. You see, in colonial times, that would have never ever been done. So I think that it's crucial that we keep the windows separate, even if we have less windows. But I think that that's the crux of the matter. And of course, I do agree with my colleagues in the sense that if the windows can be restored, by all means they must.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
No. I appreciate the feedback. So the idea, what I'm hearing, I'm sorry, is that all? I'm sorry, guys. Is that all the comments?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Is my experience with having had 3 teenagers is, rather than coveting natural light and spending time during the day in their rooms, they tend to draw the curtains, try to sleep in the morning, hate the light, and don't get to their bedrooms until 1 or 2 in the morning generally. Just saying.
I say out.
I'm glad they didn't ask for a ladder to get in the window at night, but thank you for saying that, though.
Share that.
Walter, we don't.
I have an 11-year-old. I'm
Well,
not
it's
there
just
yet.
windows.
I'm good. I'm sorry.
So where do we stand at this point?
So what I hear from you guys is, and this is kind of like Concord Art when we were talking about the little entry piece. We came back to you with a different design. I think we're gonna have to come back to you with a different arrangement here. So that what I'm hearing from you guys in terms of the design is, these windows, if you prefer them either be singular or more spread apart. Kind of matching what's going on. It's not organized on this elevation. You're trying to keep it as close as is. So maybe I'm not going to design on the fly here, but we'll come back to you with another idea with not having the windows ganged, mold together or closer together. Maybe they're singular. On the elevation here, which is faces, the Shover Road, but you can see it from Wood Street. These windows are going to be replaced but we'll look into restoring them? Because that's
I
a
think look
close,
into restoring any window
where you
that
can,
you're going to keep as many windows as you can and restore them.
okay.
Not
Because
just
when I'm thinking on the fly here, because there's 2 windows we're removing. And those, if those are good enough to be restored, and we just move, kind of rearrange it here with the elevation a little bit, the bedroom. And then, there's no windows, does that make sense? We're restoring windows, all the windows, instead of adding new Marvin windows.
Yeah,
But
that
that's
would be
something
great, sure.
again, I'm spitballing here, so we're gonna go scratch my head.
Could I also maybe suggest having 2 or 3 options? That one that is the absolute minimum change from existing conditions to 1 or 2 other variants on that. It
Oh
might
yeah, I'd
save
rather
me.
A or B. I'd rather do A or B. We don't need to do but it's just, I thank you. And the other piece I just want to make sure of, and I'm not saying to prove it tonight, but we would like to, again, it's the balance of these ensuite bedrooms. And we would really like to remove this window. Does that, how do I say it?
think that's one of the options is, what does it look like if you don't move that? And then,
I'd rather not. Okay, gotcha.
And
No,
we
I'm thinking,
rather would.
Yeah, Robert, I
no.
think we're feeling like, I think probably Louis Calderella and myself and probably some others, that pulling out that window for a bathroom wall for, to make even square footage or something, I don't know, that's normally not
not
a
okay.
hugely compelling reason for us.
Okay, I understand.
And don't forget, we also wanted to see some research about this wing, photos.
I'll see what they have in it's not like the Concord Library might have something about this house.
Yeah,
I
can't imagine they wouldn't. So.
Okay. All right. I'll go try over there. I know that. Yeah. Okay. I'll start there. And then if you can kindly pass along that window restore. I'm sure we're working with Flat Builders on this, which you guys know who they are. I'm sure they have a window restorer on in their Rolodex too. But a name that Louis recommends that would be helpful as well. Have that alternate.
Great. So
that's summarizes the feedback here, right? That's.
I have something I'd like to say too
sure.
about the application. So when it was initially submitted, well, if you go to the window schedule, Robert, that would be helpful. Initially, when this was submitted, it showed all of the windows on, I forget which side this is now. I think it's the
Wood Street.
The top.
Yep.
But those were all labeled A, existing, and they were existing windows to remain.
Yep.
When I asked you for for elevations, you submitted new drawings, and I didn't notice, because it was like today or yesterday, that you had swapped out all of the windows on the other side. Suggesting that they would be replaced when that would require a whole separate application.
That's correct. I was a little ahead of myself, and those windows aren't changing at all. Thank you for mentioning that. Sorry for the graphical mistake. Yeah, that'll be a separate application. Kind of like what. Yeah. So thank you, Ann, for mentioning that. I'm sorry. I should have put those back to A's before I sent you the drawing yesterday. That's a drafting mistake. That's not anything malicious with that. Thank you for mentioning.
So right, and your new submittals certainly make that change back to
absolutely
letter A.
Thank you very much for saying.
The schedule.
Sorry, Ann, to confuse you.
Thank you. Okay, does someone want to move to continue this application?
Public?
Second?
No.
Walter, I'm moving you along.
Are there public comments?
Oh, public comments. Sorry. We got so long at our comments. I'm always forgetting public comments. Are there public comments? No, someone can make a motion. Does anybody want to continue this application?
Sure. I move that we continue 41 Wood Street
to the next meeting?
To the next meeting, well, which is in 2 weeks.
It's only in 2 weeks. So.
Robert, is that okay?
Definitely okay. As long as it's okay with you guys, it's getting closer to the Christmas, but I think it's just before Christmas.
Right.
Totally fine. I can work. I'm gonna have this figured out next day too. So, well, actually, probably next week. I gotta do some research at the library and.
Great. So do we have a second on the motion?
Second,
Okay, so let's get some votes. Kate,
Aye.
Tim,
I,
Kristen,
Aye.
Luis,
aye.
and I'm an aye.
Sounds
So
good.
we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.
thank you, Robert.
Yep, good night. Okay, so we are back to continued public hearings. And we have the town of Concord, Concord Center, multiple sites, Main Street Historic District, to install a set of teak public benches. Is there anyone here from the town?
Hello, I'm back again. Let me
Okay,
Economic Vitality Manager.
hello. And you worked with one of our, or maybe two of our commissioners, right, on looking at sites?
Yes, Walter and Kristen, and then Anne joined us for a walkthrough to some of the sites last week.
Okay, so walk through your final determination.
Okay, let me show you my slideshow. All right, just for, I think everybody has seen this before. This is the bench we're looking at. I've found another vendor who might be able to help me with this alternative bench. Again, the timing until I get the contracting in, but it'll be one or the other of these benches. They'll be installed with either an L-shaped bracket or with a subterranean anchor, depending on the surface that it's on. I'll kind of go through all of the ones I've kind of taken off of the list, any of the ones that are no longer in consideration.
And we only want the ones in the historic district. That's all we
Yeah,
consider.
you're only seeing the historic district and you're only seeing the ones that are still in consideration.
Okay,
So the first one is here on Monument Street at the Reformatory Trail. So the idea is to put it, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, there by those granite poles. You can kind of see it on the map on the right. It's in the hot pink. I still need to go before the Natural Resources Commission for this one. I'm scheduled for next week. The two on Walden Street on the brick pads that look like they were initially intended for benches. The group last week we looked at the possibilities for here by Emerson's house, and we thought to pull it back instead of originally I had on the other side of these granite pillars, and the group suggested that it be on this near side of the granite pillar. So on the this middle picture, you can see it on the grass that's kind of closest to us between the wooden post and the granite pillar. The next one is this is instead of on the plaza in the by the water fountain here in Monument Square. The group was suggesting in front of the brick wall here. There was some back and forth about whether that was a good spot, not a good spot. There was some concerns about the view from Main Street. But you'll see as I kind of went through a bunch of Google Maps, I can see it's a very incredibly high desirable location. All the Google Map images I could find all had people sitting awkwardly. So you can see there's this guy perched on top of the wall here. The Public Works Commission has applied for a Preservation Act funding to redo this wall, but they won't be doing that until 2026. And so because these benches are specifically for 25, my proposal is to put either one or two benches up against this wall. And I've got a couple other images to see this. I know there was some concerns about the view corridor, but as you can see, you can't actually see the wall looking from this direction. And even when the main spot I'm looking at is actually behind this tree and these signs. So it's not a highly visible location. And ideally people will be sitting on it. So you'll be seeing people rather than a bench. Here's another view. There's another Google Street View that, again, it was just people sitting there. So sort of proposing up against the wall here. The other spot is Middlesex Savings Bank. So it's the brick area. I did meet with Middlesex Bank and they were amenable to having a bench there. When we did the walkthrough, again, my sense from the group, and Walter and Kristen, you can maybe advise me. We had seen that there was already a bench in front of Concord Art, and then which was kind of a pleasant spot on Lexington Road. And this is a private residence, but we were seeing this little lawn here on the side that looked like it might be able to serve a similar purpose. This was an alternative to being on the other side of Lexington Road, which was kind of an awkward spot where it was like a bridge. It seemed a little precarious. So they were suggesting this location. The one at Wright Tavern, kind of where it would be kind of the natural handicapped pickup spot. This hasn't been finalized, but so far folks are amenable. Then 2 in this sort of traffic islandy kind of spot off the parking lot on Kai's Road. This is on the other side from Middlesex Bank. I haven't gotten final approval yet from the Concord Library. This would be just one bench here that's accessible for folks that are using the handicapped parking spaces here. The other side of the Reformatory Trail on Lowell Road. One here at Concord Academy. Right now they're using it as a temporary parking lot. We had to reschedule the appointment with them, but they were in general amenable to a site there. And that's it. So we could, if folks want to, maybe it will be helpful to go through them one by one, since I know that they each have different considerations.
Are there questions about what's been done and the placement?
Well, I don't think we had reached an agreement about in front of the cemetery. And I thought that we had agreed that there'd be no benches there, that it ruins the historical nature of the cemetery.
The hill burying ground or the other cemetery? Which cemetery?
The one that goes up the hill.
Okay.
What's it called again?
I call it the Hill Cemetery, but it isn't. It's got another name. And that's where the wall's being repaired, right? That one?
Correct.
Right. There was a consideration of putting one bench sort of around the corner of that wall. But possibly it would interfere with egress and was on a slope down to a basement door on the side of the church. But that was something that was going to be looked at as well. There's an alternative spot right there.
They couldn't go across the sidewalk and the green strip?
There's a slope. It's a slope there.
It's a slope there? Okay, it's not obvious by the photo. Right.
Yeah, it's all accessibility concerns in an awful lot of these places.
Sure. So are those the 2 benches? Those 2 benches the only ones we have concerns about at this point?
Well, I think you got to divide the question, location and bench design / materials. So how do you want to?
Well, we're dealing with
I will say, if I may, having been part of the walk around, so a subcommittee report, if you will. I was, and I think Kristen also is extremely concerned about the visual impact of putting teak benches close to the many granite benches and blocks that were already there. We just blanket eliminated some possibilities because of that concern more than anything. So my take on seeing the sites that are proposed here and understanding that not all of them will come to fruition is that I don't have a problem. I think the 2 in front of the Hill Cemetery there are the most problematic. Others are probably not perfectly situated, but our sense, I think, of walking through from close to the inn all the way down to the Concord Museum was that there aren't a whole lot of places, certainly on that path, that would be suitable. And the few that were, I think, would be fine with the teak benches, and they won't be visually crammed into granite at any of those places.
Kristen, do you agree with that?
I think for the most part, I wanted to express concern about a bench in front of Wright Tavern.
Mhm.
I think a contemporary style structure put in front of the one of the most historic buildings in Concord. It's just inappropriate. And I do believe there is a bench on the other side, isn't there?
There is one of the 250th benches, but it's only about 6 feet off the ground. It's not really a usable seating.
You're talking about the ones the garden club gave, right?
Right.
I'm working on getting those repaired, so.
Great.
So hopefully the town will be repairing those before April 19th. I hope.
The ones behind Right Tavern?
Right Tavern is one of them, right?
Yeah. I will say, I agree that aesthetically, I'm not a huge fan of having a teak bench in front of the Right Tavern either. But, kind of tempered by having it next to the handicapped pickup.
I just, what's triggered for me is I'll defer to the people who did the site work on the locations, but next to the Emerson fence, the idea of plunking a modern teak bench next to a white picket fence and a granite post just doesn't feel right. And I know in other parts of colonial America, there were white painted benches in public places that have been historically documented. I'm sure Dennis has examples in the bookshelf behind him. And I just wonder, is there a, in some of these locations, whether alternative materials are something we ought to insist on?
Yeah, well, I'll say a couple things. One, if you go down and take a look at that spot where you're talking about, it's kind of a catch-all of all sorts of bits of electrical boxes and, you know, already a granite bench and the Emerson fence and this and that. So our sense, I think, when we were there was, you know, okay, if anything, it'll be in one piece and not falling apart, and it'll clean it up, you know. Dress up that little spot. I understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
Like at the tavern, is there in colonial New England, is there evidence of white painted benches, for example? I just don't happen to know. But
I'm sure there are. And that brings us around. Well, since we're off on the bench question, I think if we looked at the two benches that are being proposed, the new one she found, the one that she proposed using first, I think it's a very handsome bench, but it's very contemporary in look. And the second one she found is a very traditional sort of English bench that's been used for years and years. I think probably from the mid-19th century on. That sort of style. It's more early 20th century. But we may want to. You want to take a look at those quickly that may make you feel better to take a look at those two examples.
Yeah, sure. I agree with your assessment. I think that second style is, if we go with teak, is a little better.
Yeah, I think the first one's beautiful, but this is very traditional. Yep. I mean, that's the sort of thing that's used everywhere.
This one is my first option. That's the one that's harder to secure. This one is the one that's in the same style as in Lexington Center.
It's even called the London 150.
Right. Yeah. The other one, this is the same bench that's outside the public library, the free library on the Sudbury roadside. That's where I got the vendor from. But this one's a little more, it's more readily available, a little more expensive. I understand not as desirable. If I can get this one, I'd like to get this one.
Yeah, I think that's a much better option.
Maybe have we already seen this? Is this the first one that you had proposed as a second choice?
Yes.
Initially?
Yeah, these are the same two benches all along. The committee approved. Right. We kind of broke this into a couple different stages. So when this all first started, it was my understanding that there was a vote to approve the style of the bench, which then we moved on to looking at the individual locations.
Right,
Public Works has asked me to have just one style of bench, not to have different styles for different locations.
But you were saying initially that this one had a supply problem, right?
Right.
Right.
Right, which is why we were thinking of the other one.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and now that it's taking a little longer, this other vendor said they might be able to get it for me in time.
Okay.
They've all got weeks lead time. So.
Yeah, I have always been much more in favor of this one, so that's good.
Right. I hope they're not made in Canada or in Mexico. That's all I can
This I'm fine with one style and this style. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay, so we back settling on the bench again style. If this is the bench we're using, are there questions remaining about locations? Other than the hill burying ground, I gather is still a problem.
And the Right Tavern.
And the
I
right
have-
tavern, excuse me, yeah. The right tavern. And now, let me ask you another question. My understanding is that you may not have enough benches to go around, so this may not be a problem because you may not have benches for those spaces anyway.
Well, the issue is if somebody's walking from the North Bridge, there's no kind of age-friendly seating at the North Bridge. If we're successful at putting one at Monument Square, at the Reformatory Trail, and there's no seating till there's one in front of the Colonial Inn that I know a lot of folks don't like. And then the next nearest bench, if you're walking along that path, there's a rickety one in front of Concord Art, and then maybe one more if that private home agrees to it, and then not another one till Emerson. It's a half-mile stretch. So I guess I thought in our conversations, to be honest, I thought folks were saying that they were amenable to putting one in front of the wall. If that wasn't the case, I wish we had stayed out there to talk about it more, because that's the stretch, that's the prime stretch to be able to put a bench. You know, it is a temporary thing. It's going to be coming out in 26 as soon as they take down the wall.
While we're on that topic, the idea of moving it around the corner, I was wondering about that as you were showing it. It would be A, less visually intrusive, and B, take less of the walking capacity of that sidewalk. I do worry about a bench that probably cuts in half the width of the sidewalk. But I couldn't tell whether you've determined that you can't move it around the corner or don't want to, or.
There's a problem with it's an emergency egress from the lower church, and it's on a slope, and there's some concerns around snow removal. The sidewalk in front of the wall is actually really, really wide. It's probably the widest sidewalk around. So that seemed like the one that might be easy enough. Again, it's like after I get approval from the HDC, I still have to go back to Public Works to have them review it, and then go back to the select board. So I've got several other rounds of approvals to go. But having one somewhere proximate to Monument Square is kind of an important location.
So would we, a compromise, would we allow one bench in front of the wall and not a bench in front of the right tavern? Would you be okay with that? I mean, they're across the street from each other.
The right tavern one is more because it's the handicapped accessible entrance. And so that if somebody's waiting for a ride or getting out of a car and needs to get themselves organized, they're not just not in a safe, comfortable place to be. But it's a less public location than the one in front of the wall. The one kind of more on a public sidewalk is the prime spot.
Given the new style of bench, which we've changed to, is there still objection to the right tavern?
Yes.
I wonder, does it matter at all that it's a 1-year thing if we stipulated that these benches were very temporary for the celebration, and that these 2 benches had a 1-year lifespan? Would that make a difference or not?
I think it does, yeah.
Well, I would say the concern is for the visual integrity of the right tavern's situation, which is going to be most critical and most appreciable at exactly the time that we're talking about putting this in temporarily, to take it away. I mean, 2026, 2027, if the bench is gone and it restores the view of the right tavern, that doesn't have nearly as much historic weight as maintaining the integrity of the right tavern's view in this coming April, right?
I'm wondering why we're buying all these teak benches for just 1 year.
They got a grant to do it, I believe.
It wasn't meant for 1 year. It's meant to be longer. Right now it's
Lifespan of teeth.
becoming shorter because of the walls being taken down, and we're not identifying another location in Monument Square.
I see.
I guess I would lean to not having one at Wright Tavern, but I have a slightly different view about the one on the sidewalk. If we're going to put one, it might actually look better to put two. I mean, one bench is kind of lost in that expanse of stone. Not to mention, it may not be enough seating capacity, given as busy as that stretch is. So it maybe you think about two benches in that stretch. Take the one from Wright Tavern and move it across the street.
Yeah, I think that's what we were talking about really when we were there, was doing it that way.
So let me run by this again. So we agree on all of the sites and at this point eliminating Wright Tavern, although she's making the case for handicap, and then putting two benches on the other side by the burial ground. Is that where we stand at this point?
Sounds that way.
I believe so.
Okay. Other questions about this project? Suggestions?
Public comment.
Yes. Public comment next. I want to see if you guys have anything first. Public comment on this?
I'll just make
Raising their
comment on the I don't think that part in front of Wright Tavern, that may be the accessible entrance. I'm not sure it is though. I think it's around the side. And it's not it maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that's actually an accessible, that's not a
Don't think so.
handicap spot. It's just a widening of road. So the bench doesn't have to be directly in front of Wright Tavern. It could be moved more towards First Parish or something. Or
I am proposing in front of First Parish. It's on the driveway. You have to actually go into the First Parish driveway, and it's the brick that's showing the side of the building.
But you did.
That's not what
You
the
didn't-
photo was.
We didn't see that.
Yeah, let me show it to you again.
Did we see that one?
Yeah, so here's the front of the building.
Right.
And I'm proposing on that brick walkway off of the driveway, if you can see the little pink dot. So this is on the top left-hand corner, that's the side entrance where there's right now a no parking sign. That's sort of the natural place for somebody.
Can you use your cursor to show where you're talking about?
Can you see my cursor?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just
so I'm
can't.
proposing here. So this is the driveway into First Parish. You can see here, it's like you go around into the driveway, basically where that car is parked. It would be
Right.
on one side of the walkway or the other.
that's where you're proposing the bench,
Yes,
not in front of, not on the,
Not on
On-
Main Street.
not on Main Street.
Well, Lexington Road, actually, it's not.
Yeah,
Lexington.
not on Lexington Road. It's off of the driveway over here.
Ah.
I'm okay
So
with
that's totally different. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, we all
I mean-
happy now?
So can we do one by the side of the Wright Tavern and eliminate the ones by the stone wall of the burial ground?
The problem is, and I'm just trying to problem solve here, is that people will then have to cross two roads and go up a stairs to be able to get back onto an accessible sidewalk. So this is assuming if people, this is just sort of people walking around to the Wright Tavern. The accessible, somewhat accessible, safer sidewalk is this side of the street. So again, it doesn't solve the problem of like people who are walking this path, along that side of Monument Street or Monument Square along the townhouse in that way.
And then maybe are you going to propose signage for where these benches are? I'm kidding.
You never know with the bathrooms.
It's getting
Blue
late.
flashing light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody want to summarize that?
You have a hand up.
Yes.
Okay, I don't see a hand up. I can't see a hand up from here. Someone has a hand up?
It's me, Dennis, Nancy
Oh,
Priscilla.
Nancy, there you are. Okay, I didn't see your hand up. I can't see hands up. Nancy, what's up?
Nancy Priscilla Lee, 140 Walden Street. I'm a member of the Historical Commission, but I'm just speaking for myself, of course. But I do want all of you to think about how this fits into the context of all of our discussions with the preservation planning process that we've been spending so much time on. I have to say I'm a little bit troubled by this because it just seems like a lot of benches. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at all of this until this discussion, so I haven't thought deeply about this. So my comments, you have to take them with a grain of salt. I want to qualify that because I am going to push back a little bit, although I want to be supportive. I understand some of the reasons that, you know, we need benches for people, older people to sit on and so forth. But, you know, we've been talking endlessly about how there's more and more clutter, more signs, more everything. And these benches are not, you know, stylistically compatible with, they're beautiful benches, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I'm absolutely against them. One going against in front of the Wright Tavern. It's not only on our national register, it's a national registered landmark. That's the highest status in the country that you can get for preservation. And the Burial Hill ground, I'm studying all the monuments and markers in town right now, and I'm going through all the town records, every single annual report. And in lots of them, there are lots of examples, and every year from 1840s, they describe all of the repairs to stone walls in all of the cemeteries, all three of the older cemeteries in town, as well as at the North Bridge. So I don't know what's going to happen more with replacing that wall, but that wall in and of itself is an old wall. We haven't had benches in any of these places we've never had benches in these places, so we're introducing something.
Do we know?
new.
I'm sorry. Do we
You guys
know?
know all this. Sorry.
Do we know that? Do we know that? I don't have any evidence. I mean, how do we know that there weren't benches in any of these places
Okay, you're right.
150 years
I'll
ago?
qualify that. You're right, we don't. So you might be right. As I said, I haven't thought deeply about this. But
I'm not arguing we do, but if we don't have the facts,
but going through the annual reports, I will say that there always are, I'm going through them very carefully, and there always are item lines for expenditures for benches, and I haven't found any, but thank you. I'll keep my eyes open for that. That's a good reminder to do that. The 1975 benches, which I worked on a lot, and I'm surprised, you know, to hear, Dennis, that you're saying you're going to get money, because I asked for that. I tried to get that, and I was told that there was no money for those, and there are two right in town in the historic district that are too low, and they could easily be moved up. There's another one down the street from my house that's lying flat to the ground, and they were a gift, and you know, we're talking about putting up another permanent memorial, so we can't just discount gifts from the past. I'm not against this. I'm not against this. I'm just putting up all these. I just don't want these things to be, you know, put up and then, you know, I'm unclear whether they're for just a year or for longer. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. The three benches, we're working on getting those repaired and restored. Because I agree with you, the town ought to take care of what it already has.
I'm willing to help you with that, because I tried to initiate that, and
Yeah, it's being worked on.
Great.
If
Thank
I need
you.
help, I know where to find you.
I have a quick question for Mimi. Did you mention that you were having trouble securing the financing for all the benches? That you only was able to finance like half of them or so?
When this process started, I had seen the article and have noticed the 200th anniversary benches, and had investigated with Public Works about what kind of funding might be available to repair them. They said there wasn't any available. I started looking at what would be the expenses, like a rough expense to be able to reset them, which, because then it's considered it would have to go through public procurement. You'd have to get a vendor that is considered like construction, which has got a higher level in terms of prevailing wage. And it basically became a very, very expensive effort. I did a little look into fundraising for it. Then this other grant became available that was going to be able to, it was for capital equipment and was a smaller budget that would kind of at least get us some seating. And then thought, okay, I'll live for another day to look on the 200th benches, and kind of staying in my lane of like trying to do economic vitality and support, pedestrian activity that was sort of aligned with my core mission. But I did do some look into it, and sort of similar to Nancy, wasn't able to get enough traction, at least in term for the 250th to have any action.
So if you were to get a very generous donor that wants to pay for all the benches, would that opportunity exist? If somebody wanted to donate the cost of either one bench or 5 benches or 10 benches, would that be possible?
Anything's possible. One of the challenges is just through public procurement. So even with these benches, one of the challenges I've got now is to be able to get a contractor, an affordable contractor, because it has to basically be sort of a construction. So it's, in some ways, it's easier to do 20 benches than it is to do one bench, because of just the labor to go through all the procedural steps to make that work happen.
Okay, so we had a public comment. Any other public comments before we move forward? Or maybe move forward? Are we moving forward? Where do we stand? Does anybody want to make a motion?
Oh.
I'm not a voting member, so I can't move. So.
Well,
I can
let me look for it. I move that we approve the application of the town of Concord to install a set of thick public benches as submitted and with the input of the subcommittee of the Historic Districts Commission as it was established.
And no specificity about changes of location. We approve it as submitted. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
You're seconding? Good.
Yes.
We have a second, so let's move ahead with a vote on that motion.
Can I just, sorry, can I just clarify? So as I submitted, I actually put 2 benches in front of the wall. Is that what we're saying is okay?
That's what I'm hearing, that it's as submitted.
Okay, great.
As submitted. So, Kate?
No.
No. Tim?
Yes.
Kristen?
No.
Luis?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so it carries. So you have your benches.
Great, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Those are all the hearings tonight, but we have some minutes. And Catherine is not here as our secretary, and she usually, or clerk, and she usually has a rundown on these. Does anybody want to vote on these minutes? Has anybody read them? Have any questions about them? We're looking at May 8th, May 29th, and June 26th.
First off, as the comment man on the minutes, I'd say I would hope that everybody had read them, because that's the idea, isn't it? I did read them.
That's the hope, yes.
Yes, I did read them. I found nothing to object to in any of them. So
I read them and I have no comments.
I didn't spend a lot of time, but I did look at them.
Same here.
So do we have someone? And we can vote on all three at once, correct? Or do we have to do them one at a time?
Just a note, I think I should abstain from voting because I was not present at any of those meetings.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
I think you can vote for all three.
okay, we can also vote for all three at once, and we need to replace, Kristen, and I will, let's see, who was there at the time? I guess, is Walter, are you voting at this?
I was there for everyone.
Okay, so Walter, yes, okay. So you're replacing Kristen. So Walter, what do you say? We know.
I
you're
say
voting.
aye.
You say aye. Tim?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So we passed the minutes. It's getting late and I only had one other issue, and it's not an issue that I want to belabor, and it came up tonight, and I think we did a good job working on it. And I just want to remind everybody, because I think we have been, and I'll be there also, even though this is my bailiwick, quite wishy-washy on historic windows. And if you read what our guidelines say, in bold, historic windows should always be retained and restored or repaired when necessary. Replacement should only be considered as a solution of last resort. So I remind everybody on the window front that we really need to abide by those guidelines as far as I'm concerned. And there has to be a very good reason for wanting to replace the windows. And I think we also ought to push what I was saying earlier, and that is there are plenty of specialists out there to take a look at historic windows, to tell us whether they need to restoration, it can be saved, and in some cases can also date them and help us in figuring out what the date of a particular window is.
I
But
took
anyway,
note of that to add that as a requirement, that if you're planning to do something for a window, we expect some assessment of the age of existing windows.
right.
It's not clear.
It isn't clear, and maybe that's another rewrite we get into in terms of these guidelines. Anybody have questions about that? That's basically just a reminder that we really got to be tougher on these windows, and we've been. I blame myself. We've been inconsistent in reviewing windows. Great.
Well, we also need to be consistent and more explicit on movement of window openings versus the window itself. Again, we say almost nothing about that directly, and we probably should.
Right, I agree.
I made a note of that too. Not that I have the answer, but I made a note that we need to be specific about it.
Okay. Anything else for the meeting?
I think there's a general question while we're on this, and we have a working group now on revising these guidelines, is whether we want to have a blanket suggestion, not a requirement, of wherever possible showing historic photographs. I mean, we're lucky in that the town has just a ton of stuff on, and
right.
It doesn't seem to me to be unreasonable to ask that there's at least an effort to look at what archival photography is available on these structures.
And you do a lot of that to a certain extent. And Lewis touched on the Macros file, which is a wonderful resource. It's not complete, but it's a good starting point for any research. Great. Does anybody want to move to adjourn?
I'll move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.